This
we'll see if
conference
it
will now
starts.
be recorded.
Ooh, it is recording. Okay, great. And what time is it right now? It is exactly 1/2 past the hour. So we'll give people just a couple of minutes to get checked in case GoToMeeting is slow for them or whatever. And I believe our plan is Juliana and Sarah, are you going to kind of guide our conversation? Or I know that you provided the questions already for Tyler and Christie, but are they guiding it in whatever order that they want to? If you want to fill us in on how you think it's going to go, that would be great.
Oh, you're on mute still, Juliana.
Oh.
I think you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just switch out from my, weirdly my microphone's not working that well. I'll have to go from the webcam one. But if it's okay with Tyler and it looks like Christie as well, we would kind of let you guys order whatever, do the answers however you'd like, and then we'll jump in with some of the things that we thought were maybe most relevant for kind of us at this stage.
Sure.
Hey,
Hey.
thank you for being here.
Yeah, I've got my business manager, Brittany, with me today. She knows a lot of the answers to a lot of the questions you guys posed in terms of numbers like that. So I thought she would be super helpful for you guys.
Perfect. Tyler and Brittany, thank you so much for being here. We just are eager to learn from all of your thoughts and insights and mistakes and successes and go from there.
There's no yeah.
Do you just want to start maybe with a little bit of background? So we purchased, so we have the 400 from BioResponse that we purchased just coming up on 5 years ago now, that we've been running since then. And I looked up in response to some of those questions, our average for 2020, which is probably a little bit low because it includes December in the report, but we're averaging about 66 pets per month. I think that's about 2,600 pounds. And we have just the one machine in a rented out parcel building. So we do have one neighbor that's directly attached to us. And then we only do cremation for our veterinary practice. So we're not recruiting from other veterinary practices in the area. We have a couple of offers out if at some of the clinics we have a close relationship to, if their clients expressed an interest in water-based and specifically wanted us that we could do that for them. But we don't have that as a big part of our marketing and business plan right now. And then we do have had 3 flame-based crematories in our area. 2 of them were just purchased and are being consolidated by Gateway. And then we have one smaller one in the area, and a larger corporation about an hour and a half away that has a lot of the contracts with a lot of the vet clinics around here. And we're in Virginia Beach.
Very nice.
We're very slow. So we started back in 2017, and we have 2 machines. We did the 2 PET 400s, and then we just ordered the PET 550 that's going to be delivered hopefully in early January. We kind of average with what we have is about 250 to 275 per month pets, but that's all internal. We're looking to expand to be able to market and reach out to regular veterinary clinics and try to capture those and especially clinics as well, to capture that kind of aftercare as well. But with what we have now, we're kind of at capacity. Is why we ended up purchasing the third machine, is because we are running both machines twice a day and 7 days a week. So, but
You know the pounds per month?
the pounds per month is, I think about to 18. Dead.
I think we were running around 6,000 or 7,000 pounds a month. Is that right?
Oh, it's way more.
Way more than
It's
that?
like
Okay.
18,000.
It's a harder question than you would
Yeah.
think to answer because
Yeah.
it varies so much.
Yeah.
I guess a follow-up question would be, do you guys know how much per pound your expenses are?
So we talked about the 70 cents, right,
Mhm.
per pound. So our expenses are very minimal when it comes to the chemicals. We only use potassium. We don't use the sodium anymore. That's because we get better results, and it also helps with our wastewater system, the district that we're section 2. So we have found that we get less suds and everything from the sodium. So we pretty much restricted to the potassium only. But so we're spending about maybe $2,200 a month in chemicals, and then as far as maintenance goes, it's very, very minimal. As far as maybe just having to do with a little bit of every 6 to 8 months, we want to get a new degreaser or a seal on the lid. So the costs are very minimal. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tyler, I'm not sure where you're at on, did you figure out cost per pound for yours?
No, ours for chemical, we're probably pretty close to the same. We're just doing potassium as well. We see a lot better results with that, far less greasy, dries better. You get a much nicer ash with just the potassium, and we are pretty heavy-handed on that. I want to say we're 2 to 3 times the bioresponse chart for just the potassium, just to get those bones dried fast and processed and returned.
Overdosing them.
Yeah. I think it's probably more accurate to do a cost per pet when you're looking at big picture, factoring in labor, urns, all of those are going to be much bigger expenses than the actual chemical.
Sure.
And so it just kind of depends. But I agree, the chemical and machine cost per pound is really quite negligible. But when you add in those other things per pet is when it starts to add up. And I apologize if my son bursts in here. I'm hiding in a back bedroom from him. He's with grandma, but there's no telling.
That leads us, one of our next questions too was about the staffing, because I know that is a pretty expensive cost as well. What does that look like for you guys? Do you just have one person that mostly does it, or how does that work?
So for us, we have two full-time employees and one part-time employee. We managed to run the Aquamation machine or the facility with 2 full-time employees, roughly about $40,000 per employee for salary. But when we got busier, we had to do a lot of more DOAs, pickups and stuff like that. And so we had to hire a part-time employee. So
What's our payroll cost per month?
for Aquamation, $100,000
Per month.
per month. Yeah,
Per month.
per
I
month.
thought it was like around 9,000
It is.
for payroll.
It's $8,900.
Okay.
Yeah.
So $8,900 for payroll for us on the Aquamation side. And in terms of the questions about is this a separate part of your service, or is this a separate entity? For us, it's kind of our whole team kind of pitches in. And so, some of our hospice technicians, some of our assistants, they will help with DOA pickups, and they help with the packaging sometimes, and the urn selections and the marketing. And so, although, you'll have some that are separate entities, it just made sense for us, as small as a team we are, when trying to do as much volume as we are, to just all kind of stick together, and lay all those responsibilities, spread them out on everybody, to help out, because you're doing this 7 days a week. So
That makes sense.
Tyler, how many staff do you have running your unit or your cremation services?
So I have one full-time person right around that $40,000 range, and he's really in charge of the machine scheduling for all of our part-time folks, and really managing the flow of everything. We have, depending on the season, anywhere from 2 to 4 timers, because we do try to have somebody on call 24/7 with our doctors. Our doctors will bring back patients to the our building if they're under 20 pounds. Anything over 20 pounds, we'll have somebody take the cremation vehicle out and meet them at the appointment, just to keep our doctors moving so that they can go right on to the next appointment. And then our cremation folks bring those pets back, get their name tags on, get everything entered into our computer system. And then they also do our ash returns. So people have the option of picking up urns, picking up ashes at the office. We also do offer a delivery as well. So they schedule those separately from our pickups. So it keeps them running. Those guys are making anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour, depending on how long they've been with us. We have a couple pre-vet students that, when they're home from college, they're my favorites. They really seem to get it. And then we have a couple others that kind of do it part-time as well. So it just depends on how busy we are, how much they're working, and what that payroll looks like.
That makes sense. And that answered, Faith had a question about exactly that, how to get them back to everybody and picking up. And then does if they're more than 20 pounds and so your team is going to pick up, are they picking them up like from the client's house directly, or do they go to your doctor's home, or how does that work?
No, they're meeting us at the euthanasia appointment. So
Okay.
the doctor will help carry the stretcher out to the cremation vehicle, and they'll take them back to the office from there.
Seems like a good system. Our next bigger issue that we wanted to ask you guys about too is, what do you do with the communal cremations? And how do you handle the cremains?
I have a technician who takes all the communal ashes out. She's got some property out in a small town a few hours away from Houston, and her father was naturally buried there, and so we take all the pets out there, and he kind of watches over them. And so it's just a nice kind of rural area that we're able to take them to, and we have it mapped out and everything. So if really somebody wanted to go past there, they'd be able to do that just fine.
We have a couple spots like that too that we rotate through, but those communal ashes do add up. So it's not necessarily just a flower bed that you need. It's somebody with some property to be able to spread those out.
Very true.
Yeah.
Another question with that, do either of you have tanks for your effluent, or do you just have that waste out through the sewer? Any holding tanks at all?
So we originally started out with we had 2 machines at the new location, and we were draining directly into the wastewater system. But unfortunately, our 2 machines that we had did not have the CO2 injectors, so we weren't able to get the pH balance to neutral, and it was kind of affecting the wastewater system. And unfortunately, we were kind of zoned to a smaller and outdated wastewater system or department. So we ended up getting a holding tank, and so right now we discharge all of our effluent to the holding tank, and we do a 1.7 gallons per minute, or 1 gallon. I'm sorry, excuse me. Almost 2 gallons per minute into the holding into it drains to the wastewater system. So it's a kind of a slow bleed into there. This way that they can kind of absorb everything we're bringing in and discharging. And they've been very receptive to that.
Was it a lot of red tape? I know you're saying they're receptive to this slow bleed idea. Was it a giant headache at the time?
Yeah, it was. And BioResponse actually was really great because they also offered, they can program the machines that they send out to kind of do a delayed discharge. And so basically instead of the whole process taking 18 to 22 hours, it can take probably 24 to 26 hours, which is very helpful. But it also includes a lot more water. So it includes about 200 gallons of extra co-flush in the rinse cycle. So it's and our holding tank couldn't hold that. So, but it's an option as far as, and that's what we're going to do for our 3rd tank. So they're, BioResponse has been really helpful with everything that we've been dealing with the wastewater department, and super. And this is, I think we were probably the first ones that they had issue with. Mm-hmm. That they had, so it was kind of new for them because unfortunately we were just kind of zoned to a smaller wastewater department. But
we do not currently sell our effluent. We have that option. We've thought about it especially since we have the holding tank, but as of now, we are not currently selling it. And then Julie asked other expenses: water, electricity, facility fees.
So, I mean, water, electricity, and facility, so for our water, it's about $2,000 a month. That includes electricity, all utilities basically. And then for our facility, it's 4,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's 4,000 square feet.
And we pay $3,800 a month on that. But we're not utilizing all of that because we also have like a nice chapel area. It was a human-based crematorium when we purchased or when we leased it. And so it was kind of built out for that. So it already had a walk-in cooler, but we installed our own. And then, we use that chapel area for witness aquamations and families that want to kind of view the babies before we aquamate them.
When people do want to do a witnessed one, do you only put that pet in the unit, or do you just show them and then say, okay, we're taking them back, or how do you do that?
Well, it depends. If they want just to view the pet and just kind of have their last moments with them, then we will cremate them or aquamate them with the other pets. But there are a few families that want a private aquamation, which means their only pet is in there. Yeah, and they'll do a witness, and they'll come in, and we'll do the whole process. We'll even hit the start buttons and everything. So.
And we don't collect or sell our effluent either, really just as a space issue. When you start looking at those tanks, they're huge, and we're in a commercial property, so we have a regular back door and a regular front door. So I think unless you're in something designed a little bit more industrially, or you're building, that's harder to do. It's a lot of effluent coming out of there each cycle. So we drain to wastewater, and that was relatively easy. I think mainly because our wastewater people didn't know what to do with it. So we gave them all the documentation from bioresponse, and they're sort of monitoring it, but they didn't have a whole lot to say other than they were just curious about what was going on. I want to say our electricity is about $400 a month. It's not anything dramatically different than if we didn't have the machine in there. I don't think. What else is that? Our rent is about $2,200 a month. We're in a smaller facility. We're about 1,500 square feet. Most of that is dedicated to the cremation, but we do have a comfort room for our doctors to see appointments in, and then 2 smaller just office rooms in there and a bathroom.
What is your water bill, Tyler? Do you know, or is that included in the 400?
Ours is included in our rent, and I am just asking no questions and taking that one as a win.
That's pretty nice. Let's see. I think you've been answering the questions as they've popped up along the side. One of the things we had wondered about is the drying time. I know you both mentioned using the potassium, not sodium. And do you guys have a drying like the oven, or is it just the like dehumidifier type situation?
So we have a drying room set up, and we have the drying racks in there. The racks that look like the baking units. We have a dehumidifier in there, and it stays about, we have three dehumidifiers in the room. So it's an enclosed space, has its own ventilation. We put the cremulator in there too as well, and so we're able to deal with all that, the dust and stuff like that. And it has its own outdoor as well, its own exit. And so we keep it at like 92.
I would say, yeah,
about 92 degrees. And it takes about 24, 48 hours for most of our bones to dry.
Most of it's based on, sometimes we have, just depending on the breed, or if they've had some illnesses or medications that they're on, that it takes a little bit longer with the drying time, but typically 3 to 5 days is
for turnaround.
Yeah, for turnaround.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll usually estimate for a family about a week. So that gives us a day for them to get into the machine. They're in the machine. I think we have our cycle set right now at 18 hours. So basically we run it on a 24-hour cycle. We started with sort of the drying room setup. It's just really frustrating here in the summer because we're so humid. So we've ended up, we still have the baking trays, but we have them kind of laid out, and we purchased auto shop paint curing lights that seem to dry ours a lot faster. And then any bigger joints, especially for big dogs, soaking in some degreaser first and then getting them out there to dry. But the drying time really is the longest part, and a couple of days for that, and then processing and scheduling a time to get back home.
Is your pet 400 equipped with the degreaser pump that will put in? No,
and we've tried. Yeah, we tried a lot of those different things, the Dawn and some of the different degreasers in the machine. I think just overdosing on the potassium has helped the most, and then
Yeah.
sort of spot treatments with the degreaser as needed for some of those big like knuckle joints
Yeah.
has been the most helpful.
Yeah.
Did we talk about startup costs,
No, not yet.
like from day 0 to opening day?
No, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. It really does depend on obviously where you're at, how big your facility is. But we estimate the startup is going to be anywhere between $130,000 and $200,000. Tyler, does that sound about in the ballpark?
Yeah, I would say with the machine, and then we spent probably about 25 on our build out. A lot of that on insulating our cold room. We used the CoolBot with a split AC unit. I mean, those are really the biggest things to get in place.
Yeah. So our 10 by 10 walk-in cooler that we purchased new, that was $10,000. To build out, now we have a built out room in our original location that our team takes the bodies back, and then our Aquamation team will pick them up from that location and take them out to the Aquamation facility. I want to say it cost us about maybe around $6,000 to build out a room that was insulated properly, the AC unit and the CoolBot. So we have both, and so it just kind of depends on what your needs are at the time and how much space you actually have.
Now we hear things about the smell. How bad is the smell?
Well, it was bad enough where we actually separated them.
Okay, so no, it's gotten much better. As long as we keep the seal, updated, and I feel that, if I really feel that's a big component, and also we have extra ventilation for our building, so for our machines. So we've got 2 vents that come out from each machine that go out a certain degree of a certain footage outside of the building. That helps a lot. But when we did have to do some water sampling initially when we moved to this new location, that we had to when we had to open that machine when it was about to discharge, it was pretty horrific. So, but as far as like the general smell, I mean, it's much more manageable, especially with the extra ventilation. And so we also installed an intake air in the attic on one side of the building, and then we installed a fan by the machines that will kind of like an exhaust fan, like a bathroom fan. So take out some of the smell and the heat and things like that. So we've taken some extra precautions and steps to help with that, because especially we have a lot of families now more recently are wanting to come visit their babies before we acclimate them. So to make sure the facility looks good and smells good. And
Good to know.
And I think it really depends how sensitive you are to it. I mean, we have, coming and going at our office, we probably have 12 staff, and some hardly notice it, even if they walk in right when the machine is open, which is when the smell is going to be the strongest, right when you release that sort of puff of an ammonia type smell. But it's a strong ammonia smell, and some of them could come in the next day before you open it when it should be at its least, and will still be bothered by it. So it's trying to plan for those clients that are going to be really sensitive to it. But I think the exhaust fan helps. And we don't use our comfort room very much. So, our office manager has the schedule of appointments. We definitely try to time it so we're not opening that machine right as somebody's going to be walking in, if we can help it. But it just kind of depends. We have a smoothie shop next door, and we haven't had any complaints from them. Our exhaust fan goes up to the roof and blows it out. But if you're the one working the machine. You know, Mike is in full protective gear and a ventilator mask, but it can be quite strong.
I agree.
So it's like we have how long until we started making money? So all the build out costs and everything. When do we start profiting? I think it was a pretty short period of time.
It was like 1, 3, or 4. I mean, like it was for the first machine. I mean, like if you think about it like that, I mean, I would
if you're
say
doing
one machine with one location with where we're at now, I would say month 3, we were making a huge profit at that point. I guess we're looking at the questions here on the chat.
Yeah, I think ours might have been a little bit slower. I mean, I think we were breaking even from day one, and then probably 6 months before I felt really comfortable that it was a profitable adventure.
Yeah.
And that's a good question. What are you charging?
What are we charging for the?
That's what, compared to on the question on there, typically compared to flame cremation, is it about the same, more or less?
Oh, I think we're pretty competitive. Our return packages will be anywhere between $245 and $395 for most sized animals. Our communals are less. They're anywhere between $125 and $195. So I think pretty competitive, and I think more cost effective overall. So it just made a lot of sense for us. Once I wrote that first $20,000 check to the crematory for a month, I was like, okay, we need to figure something else out.
Yeah, I would say we're priced pretty similarly to the flame cremation. I mean, it all depends on how you're splitting up those pound ranges and whatnot. As folks begin to consolidate around here, I don't know whether that's going to go up or down. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I think our masses, we might end up being a bit more than some of these really large flame-based operations can do. And I think it would be hard for us to enter into the market of recruiting vet hospitals to compete with them. But I think for our clients, we're right around the ballpark, and the comfort and the ease of keeping everything in one place, you know, doesn't have them calling around other places.
Do you have people, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you have people who still want the flame-based cremation? And if so, do you make arrangements for that? Like if you guys do the euthanasia and somebody says, I'm not real down with Aquamation, I want to do flame-based, do you still make arrangements for that, or do they make their own arrangements?
So we still have a link on our website that talks about the difference. We don't get into it a whole lot. We try to be crystal clear that we're doing water-based. I would say we have more that seek us out for being water-based than opt to go with somebody else. We certainly have folks that opt to go with a company that's done all of their other pets before, but not based on the difference between flame and water. Just that they know that company and they want the same package that they got from them. But I can think of maybe a couple that, you know, we're just unsure about water-based and wanted flame. And we can certainly coordinate that with our local companies. We try not to get too much into the logistics. So if they want to do that, they have to decide with that company whether they're doing pickup at the house or whatnot. We don't transport those typically.
Okay, good to know.
So the way we handle those that ask for flame-based cremation, and we don't advertise, you know, flame-based, but we do give that opportunity. All of our consent forms have water-based on it. All of our information, on our website, states that we do water-based cremation. And so, but like Tyler said, for those families that have been using the same crematory for years and just want a matching urn and the package and everything, you just really trust those people. We will, if the family wants us to take care of the transport, we charge a $75 body transport back to our facility. And we make all the arrangements for them. And so we'll print out the paperwork from the flame-based and we'll get it into their system for them. So all then the flame-based has to do is they just pick up the pet and then take it to their own facility. So we do provide a little bit of extra service there, but we also charge for it.
That's super helpful.
Kim asked, how did you educate the community about Aquamation? People are so familiar with flame-based. So two things there. I mean, one, we just tried to be really clear on our website, and I can type our website in and you guys can go look and kind of see. I would say people are familiar with flame-based cremation, but not at all how it works. And so the idea of, yes, there's fire involved with cremation, I think most people get, but the number of veterinarians I talk to that do not understand the cremulator and how you get from bone to ash is mind-boggling sometimes. And so the logistics of it, most people don't know because they don't want to know, or don't feel like they need to know. So I think keeping it simple and letting them direct sort of the questions and how much they want to know helps. Usually, I think the biggest difference for us is our flame-based crematories guarantee a turnaround time of 2 to 3 days. And we just explained that because we have the extra step of drying the bones, we can't turn them around that quickly, and that's not a bad thing. It's not an opportunity to get lost. It's not because we're so busy. It's just because it's another step in the process. And so that's probably the only place where I think people actually notice a difference is, we have one of our crematories has commercials and say on there, guaranteed back to you in 24 to 48 hours or something. And so when we say a week, sometimes they'll ask, why that takes so long. And they're usually fine with it after that.
Yeah. And then there was a question, how long were you offering Aquamation before you started having people seek you out for Aquamation? I want to say probably, maybe 4 to 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Before we really started getting people seeking us out for that specific service. It has helped because we're able to build more revenue with fewer employees on the Aquamation side. So we started actually advertising our Aquamation through Google Ads. And then we replaced one of our hospice ads with an Aquamation ad for the last 3 months, just because of how so busy our hospice site is. We were just kind of really strapped and not in a great position to hire a bunch of people to try to keep up with the demand. And so we felt it was easier for us to actually take on more Aquamation business for the time being. And so we've seen some differences in that, great increase in DOA pickups and things like that. People are just using us for our Aquamation.
We do get some of those calls. We probably could advertise that more, especially now as we're losing sort of the locally owned aspect of a lot of those, the flame crematories that are in our area. That would probably be our next step beyond, or instead of marketing to those vet hospitals that I just don't know that we can compete with some of those costs. Kelly said, how much do you discuss the eco-friendly aspect? That's a big part of what we have on the website. And we do, as people kind of ask about the water-based, we do mention the zero emissions and just being a gentler process overall. And most people, the feedback is positive. They like that idea all around. Faith, we do not stock a large assortment of urns and memorial items. We did a little bit more in the beginning, but we have just found that everyone is so unique in what they want and what they like that because we have that week turnaround, if they can make that decision fairly quickly, we'll custom order pretty much everything and have it shipped to the office and then package that together for the return. I would say most people that do order a custom urn, want it to be engraved, etc. And we don't do that at our office. So even if we had the urn in stock, we would need to outsource that a little bit.
And Tyler, can I ask what your average price per urn? Say like a pound pet.
So for our included package, we have just the kind of walnut wood box that I want to believe we pay like $4 an urn for. We have some scatter tubes. Some people really like them. Some people really didn't. We do order some paper burial boxes. So we kind of divide it up. If you want a memorial keepsake, it's sort of the wood box with a name tag. If you want to scatter, we do the scatter tube. If you want to bury, we have the burial boxes. Anything else, we custom order. We've sort of handpicked some for the website, but we basically said if you have an idea of what you want, we can probably find it. We typically, I think we order most of ours from Forever Pets and New Pet Memorials. We haven't gone bulk enough to direct order from China. It certainly can save you some, but we just don't have the storage space for thousands and thousands and thousands of urns. So we haven't had any real shipping issues.
Yeah, we have a large supply of our custom scatter tubes because if we order them in bulk, then we get a huge discount on them. So we're going to have that stock for quite a while. We also offer just a plain natural wood box urn that's fairly cheap, just so that they have those quick options. We also recently started selling the living urn as part of an upgrade of our packages. We charge $125 separately as an upgrade for the living urn, which is about what you can get it for retail. We just get it at wholesale prices, and so we make probably about $50 off of each one of them. So we can be more profitable with that option, and since we're already doing an eco-friendly process, a lot of people are interested in the upgrade in the living urn. If you guys want a good source, I just recently spoke to a gentleman. His name is Ryan Bader, and I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of him before. He owns, he's the president and co-founder of Quick and Simple Imports, and he's a great source if you are interested in just having a chat with him about any of your ordering needs. He's a really great resource, and he's been heavily recommended on the aftercare side of the business.
We had a huge problem when COVID hits that we weren't able to find just the standard urn, and so that's kind of where we went in the direction of providing the scatter tube, which also aligns more with what we believe in as far as a more eco-friendly approach. But now things have changed a little bit, so we've had more flexibility there, but we had a really hard time. I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing, but through several of our companies, we couldn't find a good amount of stock for a traditional urn.
I think we just got lucky that we were stocked up and we weren't really searching for urns right in the beginning. We definitely had some trouble getting our chemical right when COVID hit. So I guess the potassium chloride especially is manufactured here in the US, but then it is shipped to China for packaging and then shipped back. So that really mind-boggling system broke down amidst the initial pandemic, but it's been fine since then.
What is our charge for DOA pickup? We charge $125 for a body pickup plus the cost of Aquamation. And question from Rebecca, do you feel offering Aquamation has increased your demand for veterinary services such as euthanasia? I would say a very tiny bit. There are some folks out there, but very few and far between. I think most of our business actually comes from advertising the hospice and euthanasia part of the practice, and they just kind of fall in line, and we're kind of an A to Z. So
yeah, I think so too. I mean, very occasionally you get those folks that call a crematory with an alive pet that want everything, but it's not that often. So Toby asked, would you still build a comfort room? Was it worthwhile to add Aquamation? So our first space, we've actually moved from more of a strip mall into this out parcel. Our first one, we had a huge comfort room, so I would definitely keep it small and dedicate more space to the actual Aquamation folks. I think it's worth having. We certainly do see appointments there. We see hospice and acupuncture appointments there as well as euthanasia appointments. So we do use it. We have our support group there as well, but I would definitely keep it small, knowing you're not going to use it that often, and when you do use it, you're only going to be in there for an hour. So keep it kind of cozy. I do think it's worthwhile to add the Aquamation. I originally did open as a separate entity, thinking that keeping them separate might give me a little bit more flexibility when it came to parting with one or the other. But like Christie said, it's also commingled that it didn't make sense after the first year or two, and so now everything is together.
Tyler, how was it moving from one space to another? Was it tough?
It was fine. It was fine because it was my landlord's decision, and so it was his responsibility to move us and redo the build out and everything. They were the strip mall we were in. They had a 5 to 10 year plan to revitalize it, and they sped that up quite a bit. So they sort of kicked us out and kicked us over, but it was a year and a half into Aquamation, so it gave us a really good chance to reutilize some of that space and know that we needed more space for the machine and for the operation side of things versus the comfort room. So it was nice to get to redo that, knowing a little bit more. The actual move was fine because they had to move the machine. They took responsibility for that and hired some folks to do it. So it wasn't a headache for me.
yeah, our move was fairly smooth because of Brittany. I didn't have to worry a whole lot about it, but yeah, we did have to move our first unit out to join the second unit, and so I think it's just a matter of timing everything so you're not missing loads, and your return time is still appropriate, and your machine isn't down. Your first machine's already running by the time you move your second. So just a matter of semantics, I think, and scheduling. So it wasn't really too bad. And this question, any risk of shortages getting potassium? I don't think so. Have you heard of anything?
I haven't heard of anything. I mean, we order twice a month. We order 17 bags every 2 weeks because anything more than that, we have to get a commercial license. So we haven't heard anything from BioResponse. Adam is really great about informing us about the holidays and things like that. So he always lets us know if there's, you need to order a couple weeks in advance or just kind of have a little bit, more on hand. But I haven't heard anything about the potassium
I haven't
shortage.
either. And there are some other companies. It really depends where you're located. If your best deal is going to be ordering through BioResponse or another chemical wholesaler, we're ordering from a company down in Alabama right now. And so we get a full pallet, I think, for about $2,300, which lasts us about a month. So that was like half of what we were paying from BioResponse for just the potassium.
What was the name of the company that you're ordering from?
I will have to check with Mike. It's something really random, but we just found it. Bulk Apothecary was one. We ordered from them a few times. They had a lot of shipping issues. Just weren't able to keep up with the amount that we needed. And then we looked at a couple others, but I can send you some of those names.
Sure, that'd be great. We currently use, I think, Brentag is the company that we use. It's here in Houston. I'm not sure if it's all over, but we use them. But it just sounds like your chemicals are a lot less expensive than what we're paying. So it'd be interesting to.
Yeah, it was a big difference. And it just kind of depends. You guys will have to look at your spaces. We're in a pretty tight parking lot, and so chemical delivery is a bit of an issue. We have put in a request to get rid of some of our curb so that we can have a ramp to roll some of that chemical up to our back door, so we're not manually having to move 50-pound bags of chemical. So just as you're planning, but our chemical delivery driver has Mike's phone number and will text when he's on his way and when he's going to be there, and so we can try to staff for that. But it just kind of depends which company you're using and how they do their shipping. There's a lot of questions over here.
Lauren asked if our handles the phone calls. Yeah, our CSRs from our euthanasia hospice practice answer all of the phone calls. We have one phone number for all of our services. And so that was another advantage of having the two entities together, is that our phone staff is trained to answer phone calls regarding Aquamation.
And we have the same, we leave a brochure with them with some of their earned choices and a direct line into the office so that they can speak with Mike, and they'll know the phone number that's calling them to set up the return. Getting them to read that packet is a nightmare, and so a lot of times they'll call our main number and go through the our normal CSRs that then try to coordinate everything. So it goes both ways, and we have people that will walk into our office and expect there to be a doctor there, and so our crematory staff is also well versed in talking about what our process is for hospice and euthanasia and all of that.
And then Faith asked how many pets per month we need to cremate for it to be profitable for us. At this point, I still think we'd be still pretty profitable even if we were at 100 pets per month. So yeah, we get a pretty good profit margin with that. And in the end, it helps with some of the supporting the other services.
Yeah, and I think our break even, it all depends on how big those pets are and what some of the staffing needs are, but I think ours is like 40, 45 pets, and we're usually going well over that.
Yeah, so Brittany just said about 67 pets.
It's actually 60, but when we did the average, yes, it's about 67 pets per month. That's to be profitable. So.
And Lori has a question if either of us use an automatic rinse cycle on the machine. I guess that's versus a manual rinse.
Is the manual rinse where you're using the hose for it?
I think so. I think that's what your email said, Lori, versus a manual.
Yeah, they're just, they advertise it, it's in the video, they show somebody using it, and maybe it's not on the older machines. I just ordered one this morning.
Yay. No, we do. We have that cycle, and I guess we probably have the oldest machine. Not the oldest, but one of the first generation. We've tried the automatic rinse for some drain clogging issues. It didn't really help with upping the potassium, helped more to really dissolve any of that sort of gunky material. So I believe Mike just goes in and sprays everything down and really cleans out that machine manually the best he can.
We still do the automatic rinse. It's programmed on the machine, and I think our first machine was what, 2016. So when we purchased it, and it's probably installed early 2017. But we still have to spray down each basket just to kind of ensure that we kind of get rid of some of the remains that won't dry out.
And
but we wouldn't have to do that, but it's still something we prefer to do. We get better results that way.
And comment about how many square feet minimum or maximum is needed for it all. Depends on the size of your service, but I would think you'd want a minimum of 750 to 1,000 square feet. And, our facility right now is 4,000, but we use about half of it. So you could even do 2 or 3 machines at, 2,500 square feet.
Easily, yeah.
And Tyler, I'm not sure how big your facility is and your comments on that.
We're probably right about that minimum. I would say our space is 1,500. Probably 1,000 of that is dedicated to cremation, including their small little office. We technically could fit another machine in there, but it would be really tight.
Christie, I'm sorry, Juliana. I was just going to ask, when you said that you're using half of your space and it's a 4,000-ish square foot space, does that include space for your third unit, for your 550 that you're bringing in?
Yeah, so we have 5 plumbing lines. So we have enough room on that one wall for 5 machines. That does include that space. And we could easily, for example, we have a big chapel space, which is probably 1,000 square feet itself. Yes. We could cut that in half and use another wall for more machines if we wanted to. It'd be a pretty complex situation at that point, and whether or not we would, move to another location, depending on how much our wastewater system can handle. That'd just be a matter of how well we can get it set up.
So when we built this building out, we built it up to just kind of a plug and play for all 5 machines. So we have 2 now, a third one coming, and then hopefully 2 more.
Yeah.
So.
And if you see, so if you acquire a space and you're planning on building out and growing and things like that, that price per pound will definitely decrease in your favor. And I think the most I was able to get it down was like 60-some cents a pound. And that's if we didn't hire someone for like a year and added another machine. And so, yeah, if you can get it around that, it just really, like I said, just depends on how big and voluminous your service is.
If you could change something, if you were to do it over again, what would you change or do differently?
I would have had a bigger space to begin with.
Interesting.
And I would say I would have been better prepared for the machine mishaps. So we have had three overflow situations that are not fun. And then we've had a heating coil issue for the past couple of years that we've really struggled to get fixed. So just knowing, even we have a simple water spill detector from Simply Safe as part of our alarm system. So last year, while I was on maternity leave, got a phone call at 2 a.m. that there was water detected, and went in and the machine was overflowing, but able to catch it right then versus 8 hours later when somebody would have come in makes a huge difference in
Is
cleanup.
that your holding tank or the machine itself?
Machine itself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and it just kind of depends on the situation. We've had a couple different situations. One of them was human error. The rest have been machine issues. But just being more maybe mentally prepared to troubleshoot some of that stuff. I will admit I am not a mechanical person. I just want to put gas in my car. I want it to work. I want it to go. And I think because we jumped in fairly early with this machine, we have provided a lot of feedback for you guys buying newer machines that will be a little bit easier to use. And so especially those of you that have significant others or people who are mechanically inclined to run everything, yeah, I think just being better prepared for some of that stuff would have helped.
We found a lot of good, so I installed those Arlo cameras. And so I just found we just happened to have these steel poles that were in the building when we purchased it or leased it. And they're magnetic. So I just kind of stuck them there, and they've been great because I can overnight kind of monitor them, especially when we're having issues. If we had like one of the heating elements not heating up properly, or it's taking 3 or 4, 6 to 8 hours to heat up to the proper temperature before it goes to the next level, cycle. So it's been very beneficial for me for that way to kind of monitor, especially when we're seeing some issues going on with the machines. And so that's because, unfortunately, we don't have access like BioResponse does to tap into those systems and monitor them remotely. So we're trying to alleviate them having to be on call all the time for minor errors that we could probably troubleshoot ourselves in-house.
Yeah, I probably would have, when you asked me if I would have done something differently, I think I probably would have tried to educate myself more about the machinery and, how it was working, identifying problems, and just being more well-versed in those areas. But it becomes really difficult when you're also trying to manage a hospice practice and a euthanasia practice at the same time. And there was no way, yeah, and there was no way once we got to a certain point that I could do it by myself. And that's why I have Brittany, and she's able to really take this on more full time and manage all the mishaps and, the building nightmares and things like that. I just ran out of patience and time to deal with all that myself. So
I'll have to admit, I have a lot more gray hair now from managing Aquamation. I love it, but it was definitely it was definitely a learning curve for me.
And I think part of it is that it's stressful. It's stressful on the business end, but you're also, those are pets in the machine. And so when anything goes wrong, your responsibility to those pet owners is just a little bit overwhelming. And so this last time we had an issue that happened about 4 hours into the cycle. So we thankfully have another Aquamation machine locally, and we were able to finagle a way to get our baskets over to their machine and finish the process. But I think that extra layer, it's not just a financial downtime, it's not just a headache cleaning up mechanically, but you're responsible for those pets, and that's stressful too.
Yep.
And I know we have some more questions. I feel like there probably are some here too. It's 4:34, and I know you guys have, at least Christy with traveling and everything. If we need to cut it off here, we can. If you have a few more minutes, we can do a few more, whatever is good for you guys.
Yeah, we're pretty free at the moment, so if you guys do want to continue to ask your questions or have us finish up, that's fine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do either of you have a safety shower? There's a random question.
We do. It was not helpful though during the one spill where we actually had somebody slip and fall. She would have had to go through the gunk further to get to the safety shower, so she didn't want to do that. So she was kind of in the sink. So we do have one. It's there. OSHA then followed up with us after that incident, and I was very glad it was there. But practically speaking, it is covered in dust.
Okay.
What are the biggest challenges you were not expecting? And you kind of went over some of those, like the mechanical things. What other things where you just totally didn't think that would be a part of it? And it was.
I totally didn't think that we were going to get blamed for so many smells around the business when I first started it. And like Tyler, we started it a little early on. It took some time to kind of learn how to mask all those things and fix things.
Nest candles are like your best friend. I'm telling you, if you get a Nest candle, it'll mask all the smells.
Yeah. So, but getting over that and trying to work with some of the neighbors and those issues, trying to convince them that no, it's not us creating that smell or odor, and everything that we're doing is safe and is non-toxic. So that was one of the hard things as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
And Christy, there was a question up here about software. We're just using Vetter and sort of making it work for cremation, but you're using a tracking software now?
Are we?
Yes.
Oh, not currently. We are working on it though. Should have something in place hopefully within 6 months. So the best we can do is the metal tag tracking and doing our best to sign off and double check each other. So
that's what we do too. I think somebody asked that up there further. We just have the stainless steel name tags that we engrave quickly with the pet's name and then use a rubber band to attach that like a bracelet, and that stays with them. And then we also do the backup diagram of who's where in what basket and what compartment. And then Lori, we really use that because we use the rubber band on there. We haven't had a problem with any of the name tags slipping through or anything. So the moving the bones from the basket to their drying sheet hasn't been a big issue. We just do the best we can to get all of those tiny pieces out and keep everything as separate as we can. It's not perfect, but I think it's pretty good.
Is that little scooper system they show really the best way to get those bones out of there? And do you have a table close by, a tray? Can you just kind of describe to me your steps and your ID? I hope you guys will find that useful.
We just do most of it by hand, honestly, and we go onto those baking trays. So the trays kind of move over. They can sit right there on the basket, and they can kind of scoop everything out. But the actual like hooper scooper looking thing, I think we used maybe for a week and don't use anymore.
We actually love the one that we use. So we have the baking rack, the trays, and the one that we have is designed actually to fit the width of between the dividers between the compartments, and so it's perfect. So like there's we're able to scoop out almost all of the remains based on that size of the scoop. So it's I can send you a link that we have, but we have 3 of them, and we find it very, very helpful because, like I said, it fits perfectly between the dividers of the basket. So it's really helpful.
Then there's the question, is anyone planning to service other veterinary hospitals? Yeah, we're getting there. We just really wanted to make sure that we were servicing our own families first, and that we had that down, and we worked through all of the initial changes and things like that. Because once you start to take on other practices, then if you make changes, then you have to relay those changes to the other practices. And so for as little extra time as we have just to manage our own families, we've kind of stayed away from taking on, larger practices at this point.
And same, I mean, we probably in our slow season could,
but it may get to a
help
point
service.
where we grow out enough to be able to manage that better. But for right now, we're just really focused on. What was that?
Sorry, I think everything froze, so I thought you were done. I was just saying, same, when we're really at our slowest peak, sort of November now, we could take on some extra, but during the summer months, we can barely keep up with our own. So unless we were going to add another machine, I don't think we can safely do that.
What other machines do you guys have? Obviously, everyone has a cremulator, and you have your system for drying and things. Does everyone have a hoist system, or how do you get the pets into the units?
So we have an electric hoist and we have it built out to cover all 5 machines, actually. We had, and so that's how we use to get our the baskets out of the machine once they're done. And it costs about, I want to say about $1,500 to $2,000 for the electric hoist itself.
And we have the manual hoist where you just kind of pull the chain, and that's been fine for us for our one machine, just centered over the one machine. But you definitely need something to get those baskets in and out when they're loaded up. And we're just now 5 years in ordering replacement baskets, which I think the estimate they just sent me was about $1,600 including shipping. But those baskets have lasted us a good 5 years. They're just starting to bow a little bit and get a little misshapen. And I think they've made some improvements to the baskets themselves. So we're gonna get some new ones now.
Yeah. They actually just sent us a new batch, and which is great because they use a different welding company, and so they're much better. So they're not so the construction of the baskets are much better now.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
So we're having the same issue where the baskets were bowing too, when we're doing with the hoist and everything. So they're breaking and cracking and things like that. So
yeah. Faith, we still do paw prints at our euthanasia visits, so we just leave them. If we do a pickup where we haven't done the euthanasia, we'll do a paw print at the office and bring that home with the remains. But for the most part, our doctors do them in the house. And we do get a lot of microchips. We certainly don't promise them to people, but if they're in there, then we include them in the cremains after, obviously, the bones go through the cremulator. Same for any hardware. We wash that off and keep it sort of in the package with the ashes, unless the owners ask for something specifically different.
Yeah, we actually have the Aquamation team do most of our paw prints. We used to do them in the homes. Now we just have the Aquamation team do those. We've been able to retrieve some of the microchips. We're looking into getting some stronger magnets, though, to help us with that. But we've been trying to position the magnets in different areas. I always think that that's really neat. We don't guarantee, like Tyler said, we don't guarantee them, but when we are able to retrieve them, we do return it in their package.
And you'll also get all kinds of fun things that dogs have eaten, plastic toys and who knows what.
Yeah, bottle caps and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the texts I get from Mike, like, what could this be in this dog's stomach? I'm like, I don't know.
Do you give those kind of things back, or do you just throw them away? Does anyone want that stuff?
Yeah, we include the hardware, like any surgeries or T-pillows or stuff, but the plastic kids toys we throw away. They're pretty gross once they go through the machine, and after being in the stomach for how many years, who knows?
or like underwear.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that synthetics. How does synthetics come out? You know how people want you to leave a dog wrapped in a blanket or they put a toy in with them? Do you try and discourage anything going in? And if it's plastic, comes out as plastic?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
we try to
usually. Go ahead.
And she's frozen.
I basically say anything that's not organic matter can't go into the machine.
The best that we can do is actually to set the item on top of the machine while the animal is processing.
She's freezing up.
Oh, can you hear me? So
Yes.
Christie's freezing. Okay. I didn't know if it was me or her.
yes, we hear you now.
So we say it has to be organic. So Palm Sunday, some people send some palms or, a flower or something. And I think that's mostly okay. If they want to send a blanket, I tell them it's just going to come out as a wet, gross blanket. Nicely. So they can send the blanket with the pet. We'll keep it, wash it or not wash it, depending on what they want, and bring it back home so that pet can keep it with them the whole time, but not be cremated. Same with toys. Yeah.
That's.
Heather, would there be any advantage of choosing a 400 at this point, or would you start with a 550 now that they have it?
Yeah, probably the 550. I don't know that we typically get anywhere close to 400 pounds in that machine. Just because the big dogs are so gangly and we're not cutting off limbs and packing the pounds in there. So 550, 400, you probably get, a bit more room, but I don't know. I would probably jump to the 550.
I would base solely on that you could aquamate almost any size pet, where it would be difficult for us to fit those mastiffs in sometimes. The 550 is going to be a lot easier, and then that way you're not having to refer them to a flame-based crematory for that.
Yeah, for us, our cutoff is about 150 pounds. And even those sometimes, depending on what kind of animal that is, that's a full machine private cremation. So it probably would give you a little bit more space to do some of it. I saw a bloodhound the other day that was 230 pounds. You guys, I thought he was lying to me. It was amazing.
What do you tell
We
people in
did
that
attend-
situation?
We just say the weight limit for our machine is 150, and if they have it, and then we'll refer them to Pet Cremations of Tidewater here has a equine unit, and so they'll go to them.
I know someone had a question too, Lori, about your relationship with the local flame-based crematories, and that is an interesting question too, that you were for the giant ones at least. But yeah, how is your relationship with whoever you used to use or whoever else is around?
I mean, we will maintain friendly, connections and referrals no matter what. I don't think it's significantly with the adversely really affected us significant the rest of them, but to each his own, and I just wish everyone success, and so I not I don't run into issues with that sort of situation.
Same. I actually got really
we also
lucky.
have a separate, so we have our walk-in.
Sorry.
Good.
I got really lucky because we were using one of our local crematories, and they were really good meeting us at the house, and we were spending probably not quite 20 grand a month, but a significant amount of money with them. And at the same time, I was getting really serious about buying the machine. She was starting to sell or look at selling her practice. So she kind of broke the news to me that she was selling, and I was able to say, oh, that's good, because I'm looking at doing my own. And she didn't end up selling, but it made me feel a little bit better, letting her down gently.
It's been so helpful, you guys. Thank you so much for
Good.
spending all this time.
Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome. And,
Sure.
obviously this is just a one-time thing, and you guys will have more questions as you guys move along. And so Brittany and I are always available if you guys have any questions. Just get a hold of us and we can help.
Yeah,
Oh,
same.
You guys are awesome. Juliana and I were talking earlier because I think, Lori, it sounds like you paid money this morning. We're paying money tomorrow. I think then Juliana's right on the cusp, and I think there's some others as well that it'd be nice for us newbies to even, maybe have a little get together group, and so we can cheer each other on.
Yeah,
And I think for those that aren't quite that far along too, Colleen and Rebecca were planning to do something similar, maybe with some of the folks operating flame-based cremation operations. So if any of you are still kind of going back and forth about what the best setup is, they may be trying to set that up too.
Nice.
have you guys become APLB members, Association of Pet Loss and Bereavement?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I should probably do that. And I'm really curious about all these memorial items. Tyler, I'm thinking like you, this is going to get overwhelming. There are so many choices out there, but maybe if you pick some to have and to market, there's definitely revenue in some of those items.
Yeah, I think you just have to kind of pick and choose, and you have to stay up with it, because we've had a run here recently where some things were still up on our website and they've been discontinued, and it's like once people go through all these and actually pick an urn, having to tell them that you can't order it, it's like a nightmare. So there's a lot out there, and I think at least picking the wholesalers that you want to work with most often, and then just letting people know that if they have something particular in mind, to let you know, and you can search for it and try to find it for them, or they can always order too and send straight to you.
This is great.
This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, good luck, guys.
Yes, thank you. So many great questions answered. Some of them I didn't even know I had until you brought them up. So very, very helpful.
Well, let us know as things come up if we can help.
Awesome.
Oh, we will.
I was just going to say,
we will.
okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Everybody.
We're on the same time frame.
Very cool.